everyone. How y'all been? How y'all been doing? It is Technical Tech here, and today I am coming to you with something a little bit different, all right? So, usually I do my how-to tutorials or my Womanhood Wednesday. However, today I am going to talk about three best practices for designing your online class. I do want you to know that I've referenced two books, okay? Two books, and then one website, and then lastly, some materials that I've used for my online class, okay? So, one of the books that I've used for this to develop my research is called Design for How People Learn Voices That Matter. This is by Julie Dirtskin. Yes, I do have my notes here because I want to make sure that I have everything correct, okay? So, with this one, I actually had this book in grad school. When I was getting my ed tech degree, the design for how people learn, it really opened my eye to like seeing like how many different learners we have, especially when it comes to online learning. Okay, so I highly suggest that one. And then my second book that I have is it's published by Pfeiffer, and the editor is Patty Shank. Okay, and it's called The Online Learning Idea Book: 95 Proven Ways to Enhance Technology Based and Blended Learning. Okay, if y'all can see that. And sorry about the background. Y'all know I have two little kids. Anyways, so we have that, and then later on we're gonna get into the website that I am going to refer to, as well as my own materials. Let's get into the agenda. What it's gonna look like. The three best practices are support the learners, activities, student feedback. When we look at support the learners, we look at the needs assessment. What are the needs of the students? The study schedule and celebrations. Okay. When we move to activities, we're looking at like, are you going to do asynchronous learning, synchronous learning, or collaboration work for your design? And then lastly, we look at student feedback. Okay. So this actually goes into improving your. In terms of supporting your learner, when you look at a needs assessment, what you want to look at is, okay, first off, of course, we know that, you may teach a group of ninth graders, right? But one of the things you want to know is like, okay, what is your tech like? What's your access to technology? Okay. What is your skills with technology usage? Okay. Are you able to have support while you're not at school? Okay. With technology, and then communication, and of course, like skills. So, how are you with technology? Do you have the access? If you know that your student does not have access to technology, I would say reach out to your district stakeholders. Okay, see what the technology plan is for device distribution. All right, so that's something that you need to think about in terms of a need assessment. Students, are they able to, do they have the skills to actually log on to a device? What does that look like? Support. If they laptop crash, who can they call to help them out? Okay. And then communication. Are you communication? Are you communicating with them? Do you have what is your policy with emails? What is your policy with face to face video conferencing? So those are the things to think about in terms of needs assessment. All right, so when we look in terms of the study schedule, we want to think about how are we going to welcome our students, one, okay? Next, how are we going to communicate the expectations, that's two, and then what is the week at a glance? What is that going to look like for them? Then finally, how are we going to communicate? Okay, how blah, blah. How will we communicate to our students? And so, in my course, in my what, why, when, and how to flip your class with my teachers, what I did was I basically gave them a brief welcome paragraph, and then I had, like, the information of getting started. Now, do know that this policy is definitely, it's district policy in terms of professional development online. And so I was able to add in that those policies and then the course expectations, right? And so as you see the highlighted part, they were able to see like when assignments should be submitted. It says all assignments should be submitted on time. Assignments are due September 15th, September 22nd, and September 29th. Okay, so I gave them those due dates, so they can say, hey, Miss Admin, I see that your assignments are due this time. Can I go ahead and start working on it? So it's best that you have those dates already laid out. And then I also included information about the face-to-face learning lab. Okay, so I had the meeting dates for those, and I also had which ones were mandatory and which ones were not mandatory. Okay. Um, I let them know. I said any update in Schoology and email will be sent out weekly, okay, to notify participants. And so when I go into the week one, okay, the week one is the week that I had completed first for them. So if they want to go ahead and get that done or get started on that, they could have. I provided a lesson plan for my teachers. Now, I'm not saying that you should provide a lesson plan for your students, but because this was a professional development course on how to flip your class, I wanted to leave them with resources. And so one of the resources that I provided was a lesson plan template. And it wasn't just a template, but I actually, provided them with how they could lay out their flipped classroom lesson plan. And so that's a resource that I had to support them. Uh, Now, I also provided them with the access code to Pear Deck. And then they had the Schoology discussion, why flip your class. And then with the help and support, okay? So with this part, I let them know that they could post a question in the help discussion forum. And I said that they could email me if they needed any help. And then I let them know, like, what time they should what time they should send emails, right? Because I say email sent after 8 p.m. Any day will likely not be seen until the following day and may result in a delayed response, okay? Furthermore, the people with technology issues, um, it says all issues regarding trouble with Schoology platform should be directed to tech services, okay? So I put that information in there as far as tech support, right? So this goes in terms into the needs assessment. What is something that your student needs, okay? And then lastly, I have my contact information. So I say, I gave them my email. And so these are the ways that we could support the learner. So, in terms of celebrating your students, okay, so if your learning management system has a way to create updates, you can simply just do an update to celebrate your students. So, for example, right here, I put shout out to Ms. Olmstead and Ms. Lopez for turning their final assignment in this morning. Your responses were well thought out and engaging. Thank you both. And so that's one way that you can celebrate your students. Another way that you can celebrate your students, in which I didn't use for this course, however, I've used for my campus, was creating a s'more. And so I put congratulations to Ms. Reyes for winning April's Tech Teacher of the Month, and then the same thing with Mr. Stewart. And so these are some of the ways where you could actually celebrate your students. All right, so now that we have finished with our supporting the learners, We're going to look at activities, okay? And more specifically, activities that are involved are surrounding asynchronous learning, synchronous learning, and then collaborative work. Okay. Now, I'm just going to let y'all know for my class, my online class, I did asynchronous learning, and because it was a hybrid, we met face to face, so I did not do the synchronous learning. Um, Needless to say, I mean, I could have, I just didn't, right? And so when you're doing your online course, you just want to make sure when you are planning for these types of learnings, um, make sure that you are very detailed in how you want it to be structured. Okay. Now, if you look at the structure of my asynchronous learning, so I have week one, the what and the why. So for that first week, I had my students doing a pear deck, and what pear deck does, it allows the students to access the Google Slide interaction by using the join code, right? And so they can work on that on their own at their own pace. I just gave them a due date of when they're supposed to have it done. Notice that I know it says April 30th, 2020. I just adjusted that. Don't worry about that. And then I had created a rubric. I created a rubric just so that I could, measure their learning and see what they've actually been doing. And then next I did a discussion. And then lastly, I did a week one quiz. Okay. Know that when you are doing a synchronous learning in your class, know that you will have to plan it out and you have to make sure that students are available at whatever time that you may have. Like, for example, if you decide to do a live a live chat, right? You have to give a time segment. Okay, you have to give a time segment, and you have to lay that out in your study schedule or your course syllabus. You have to say, okay, live chats are going to be from this time to this time. You have to make sure that your students are available during the time. Okay, you can't just say, oh, today we're doing live chat. No, because you don't know how your student environment is, right? So you just want to make sure that you plan that out. Okay. Lastly, like with collaborative work, you can do that collaborative work. Like if students are working together on a project, they also can do like mini Zooms within themselves, and then of course you will have to manage that by planning that out and saying, okay, these are the times that y'all need to work together collaboratively, or they could work collaboratively, asynchronously, at their own pace, right? It's all about having that schedule laid out for them and those expectations so they can understand what they're supposed to do with either asynchronously or synchronously. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about course feedback, right? Or just feedback in general. And so, when you are working through your course, when your students are working through your course, you want to make sure that your students are understanding what they're doing, right? And so, you could simply do like a check for understanding, okay? You could host a Zoom conference, and you can say, okay, if you are having any confusion, let's meet on this day. I know it's not planned out in your schedule. However, if you are noticing that your students aren't participating, if you see like they're being absent, or two, they have a lot of like confused answers, I would definitely suggest that you have like, okay, this is where I need to pause and say, let's go ahead and do a Zoom. And, I would say try to solicit times of like what time would work best for them. And then host a video conference and say, okay, how can I improve on this particular activity? Or how can I improve on communication, right? And so just being transparent and also just being vulnerable, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about what the learner is receiving. And if they can't understand, or if they're not receiving what you're trying to teach, then you're not going to reach. So all the resources, the books, the websites will be in the description below. All right. Bye guys. Peace out.